moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Marianne's guests are leaders in their field, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in their own work. They teach others to develop, refocus, and grow. Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. And remember, make every moment count.
Hello and welcome to Moments with Marianne. Today, my special guest is no other than CNN hero and founder of Warrior Hike, Sean-Gobin. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, definitely. What a pleasure it is to have you on the show. I mean, you're oh my goodness, such an amazing person. You have this, soul-inspiring nonprofit that is changing lives. And I'm just so glad that you took the time out of your extremely busy schedule to spend with us here today and to talk about you, your journey. I want to learn more about Warrior Hike, so why don't you just take the floor and run with it?
Sure. And the pleasure is all mine. I really appreciate the opportunity to tell my story. So I guess the best place to start is from the beginning. I did 12 years in the United States Marine Corps. I joined in 1994, did a tour as an enlisted Marine, went to college, got my commission as a Marine officer, and that was right as 9/11 happened. Mm-hmm. And so when I reported to my first unit as a tank platoon commander, we were immediately deployed to Kuwait to begin the invasion of Iraq in 2003. And so that was a 4-month, 350-mile assault from Kuwait into Baghdad. And so that was my first combat deployment. I came home, did some reset training, and then deployed back to Iraq in 2005 as essentially an infantry platoon commander. Had a whole platoon of Marines mounted on Humvees, and we were in Fallujah basically doing counterinsurgency operations against the insurgency that had risen up that year. Also a very kinetic, combative deployment. From there, I came back to the United States, had 3 or 4 years teaching tank school with the Marines before then deploying to Afghanistan for a year in 2011. And that deployment, I was training the Afghan National Security Forces. So I was training the Afghan military units, the police forces, how to do tactical operations, assessing their capabilities, and then returned home. That, too, was also a pretty kinetic deployment. That was at the height of the insider attacks where the Taliban had infiltrated the Afghan forces, and we had quite a few Taliban that infiltrated the units that we were training and attacked the Marines that we were serving with. So, and it was around that deployment, about halfway through that deployment, I realized that I was about due for a life change. Those 3 combat deployments had really taken a toll on my mental and emotional well-being. I was really struggling with interpersonal relationships and work-life balance, and really, was starting to feel, not right. And so it was during that deployment that I realized I needed to make a life change, and I decided to get out of the Marines and go to grad school. And so the timing worked out just right, where I was getting out of the Marines in the spring of 2012 before starting grad school that fall. I had about 4.5 months to play with. And since it had always been a dream of mine to hike the entire Appalachian Trail, all 2,185 miles of it as it spans from Georgia to Maine, I figured that was going to be my chance to do so. And so I talked a buddy of mine that I was deployed to Afghanistan with, and convinced him to join me after cajoling him for about 2 weeks. He finally relented and decided to join me. And so the last day my last day of active duty service in the Marines was on the March 13th, and I immediately drove out of the back gate of Camp Lejeune and to Georgia. The next day, started hiking the Appalachian Trail. And that
basically, you had your own walk in the woods.
Exactly. Yeah, that started a 4.5-month journey that was going to, change the trajectory of my life in a far different direction.
Now, when you started on this journey, it was you and your friend. Did you go there with the intention that you just needed to get your head clear, you needed to process some things, or was it, I know you said it was a dream of yours all in the past, was it a combination of things that inspired you to go and walk the trail?
Yeah, when I started the trail, I had no idea how therapeutic this experience was going to be. Instead, I was going out there solely as this is a personal challenge, something to be conquered, because only 20% of the people that start the Appalachian Trail in Georgia actually make it all the way to Maine. And so it was just something I wanted to do. And so we started hiking, and then I realized after that I realized on day 3 why only 20% of the people actually make it to Maine. I made the rookie mistake of, I started the trail at a breakneck 4-mile-an-hour pace. I did 16 miles the first day, and I think 16 the second and third days the same pace. And by the third day, I could barely walk. I could barely get out of my tent. Unlike doing a 20-mile ruck march in the Marine Corps, where you then have, a month to heal before your next, hike, conditioning hike. And when you do a through hike, you've got to hike every single day. So, I made the mistake of not taking very good care of my body in the very beginning of it. And so for the next month, I was in a constant state of suffering and pain as my body was trying to heal from the damage of the first 3 days while I was still trying to hike, because I only had 4.5 months to do this hike, and there was no days off, and so I just had to keep going. So the first month was just literally in survival mode, just trying to get up the trail despite all of the overuse injuries that I had. And then after about the first month, after my body finally started to heal, I really started to enjoy the trek at that point. And at that point, it was later spring, and so the sun was out, and the birds were out singing, and the flowers were blooming, and it really became a enjoyable experience. And at that point, my mind was able to focus away from how much my body hurt into, actually thinking freely. And what I noticed that began to happen was I started to process all of these experiences that I had while I was in the Marines, which is important because typically when Marines get out or when service members get out, they immediately hop into the first job that presents itself, and you miss that time and space that you really need to process your experiences, especially if you've had multiple combat deployments. And so now for hiking 8 hours a day, I had that time and space to just think and process all those things that I had put away for so many years. And it became, really cathartic as I made my way up the trail.
Did you find it was helpful to have your friend there and the two of you can talk about similar experiences or your shared experiences?
Exactly. There were 3 things about the trek that really made it a very powerful therapeutic experience. The first one was, as I said, just having the time and space to hike 8 hours a day in nature to think and process, without being in front of a computer or a cell phone or a TV. The second thing that was really helpful was the fact that I was doing this hike with another combat veteran. Somebody had been on deployment with me that had experienced similar things, and so you've got a fellow veteran there that you can talk with. And so as you're going through this process, through these experiences and this decompression time, you've got somebody there to talk to. And that was really, really powerful. And then the third thing that I noticed was really impactful was along the way, we would, as the trail passed through different towns, we would get off the trail and meet with different community organizations that would help us and take us in for a night along the way. And those included veteran organizations like VFWs and American Legion posts and, hiking groups and church groups. And then we were meeting all these wonderful people that, had never met us, that didn't know us, but yet were opening up their homes and showing us incredible hospitality and support. And, that was really eye-opening because, for most of my adult life, I had been dealing in warfare, and which is where you're exposed to the absolute worst of humanity. Mm-hmm. And now I'm being exposed to the absolute best of humanity. And so, at that point in my life, I had a really cynical view of humanity in general. But now through all of these experiences, it became a really impactful experience and restored that basic faith in humanity that I had lost along the way.
Oh, and I'm sure because I've been following Warrior Hike for some time now, and on your Facebook pages and on different social media, I always see these pictures of the different veterans that have, and I'm kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves here. We'll kind of right back to this, but these towns have really opened up, on these trails have really opened up their hearts and opened up their homes, and I mean, it's just, I think that would be just heartwarming for anybody that's taking these trips, So, well, and then so you're doing that, and then you get these experiences. At what point did you decide, like, hey, this is something that can help other people? I feel like I've really processed this. This has helped other combat veterans.
Exactly right. And so as I was experiencing all of this, I kind of had an epiphany of, well, this is so helpful to me. I can only imagine that it would be helpful for other veterans that were transitioning out of the service as well. And so I kind of had this idea in my head as I was going up the trail. And now looking back, I realized that at the time, the Department of Defense was really struggling with how to transition its veterans. And as we all know from reading the news, there's been essentially an epidemic of post-traumatic stress among the veteran community.
Oh, yeah.
And so I happened to come across a paper that was written that talked about, one of the theories out there is, the reason we're having such a difficult time with our veterans coming home from war is, the age before modern transportation where armies would have to march home after fighting a campaign. It was that act of marching home that allowed them to process and decompress, and we've eliminated that. And now, with the age of modern transportation, you can literally get on a plane and be home from the battlefield within 72 hours. And so all three of my deployments, I was home within 72 hours of fighting on the battlefield to being back in the United States and being in Walmart and driving the 95. And so that's a very abrupt transition and experience.
Yeah.
And essentially, it just, that switch, that mental switch that you have to make going back and forth, eventually that switch, short circuits. And so it's really hard for you to process between being in the battlefield and being home. And so now with these long-distance hikes that I was doing, I realized it was replicating that experience of marching home that we no longer do. And so that kind of was the impetus in my mind of, well, maybe I can create a veteran transition program for veterans that, that were coming home from the wars that wanted to use a long-distance hike as a means of transition. And that became the idea of Warrior Hike.
Well, and I know that Warrior Hike also had your inspiration for part of this also was Earl Schaefer, when you learned a little about this gentleman.
Yeah, so when I finished the hike, I started grad school, and I still had this idea in my head. And the staff of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, which manages the Appalachian Trail, had reached out because their board had been for many years trying to figure out how to set up a veteran outreach program hiking program on the Appalachian Trail. And the reason that they had this idea was because the very first person to hike the entire length of the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine was actually a World War II veteran. He had come home from the Army after fighting in the Pacific Campaign. His best friend had died while they were serving together, and he had returned home, and after languishing for a few years and just not feeling settled, told his friends and family that he was going to go walk off the war. And then 4.5 months later became the very first person to hike the length of the Appalachian Trail. And so in honor of Earl Schaefer, the very first thru hiker, was the reason we now have Warrior Hike, and we named it the Walk Off the War program in his honor.
That's amazing. Since the program was founded, about how many combat veterans have gone through the program?
So we started I started working with the Appalachian Trail Conservancy that winter to develop a Warrior Hike for the spring of 2013.
Okay.
And so we basically designed the program to mirror my experience. And how that looked was we sent out, built a website and sent out a notification on the Appalachian Trail Conservancy's website that we were interested in providing support for veterans that wanted to thru hike the Appalachian Trail. We got, immediately 14 applications within the first 2 weeks. And
that's pretty good.
I was like, great. Well, here's our first group. And so at that point, I started scrambling and called every outfitter and outdoor retailer that I could find, and begged them for gear and supplies. And I was gracious enough to find a bunch of companies that sent a bunch of hiking gear and equipment and supplies down in Georgia. And I met them in Georgia and got them completely outfitted with hiking clothing and gear, and then we were off. And that was the very first 14 in 2013 to hike the Appalachian Trail. And then in addition to that, we also provided them a monthly $300 stipend to buy their resupply items along the way, and then also reached out to the communities, the same communities that I had met with during my hike, and asked them to host these veterans as well. And so about once a week along the trail on the weekends, we had these different community groups that would take the veterans in and host them for a night, give them a place to stay, do laundry, have a hot meal, meet with folks before getting them back out on the trail the next morning. And so
have that same sense of community that you discovered as you were going on your first trail.
Exactly. Yep. And so so that was 2013, and then it was really at that point it was a test, prototype, a theory that folks would experience the same things that I had, and sure enough, they did, and it was as transformative and powerful a therapeutic tool for them as it was for me. And by the end of that hiking season, I had become inundated with requests from other veterans that wanted to do this type of hiking program, and then also from other trail organizations that wanted to replicate Warrior Hike on their trails. And so in 2014, we then tripled the size of the organization and basically replicated what we were doing on the Appalachian Trail to the other two long-distance trails, and that included the Pacific Crest Trail that goes from Southern California to the Canadian border in Washington State. That's about 2,600 miles long, and is also the trail that the movie Wild with Reese Witherspoon was about. And then we also added the Continental Divide Trail, which is a 3,100-mile trail that starts at the Mexican border in New Mexico and then goes all the way up to the Canadian border in Montana. And basically the same thing. We had a group of veterans on each trail in 2014, outfitted them with gear, connected with the communities along the way, and sent them on their way. And so that was that year we had, another 14 or 11. So we had 25 veterans that we put on the trail in 2014.
Now, this is open to both men and women. Is that correct?
Correct. It's open to men and women from any service. The only requirements are that you served in a combat zone, and that you were honorably discharged from the military.
That's fabulous. And I understand you're going through the list of people for the next coming up season and doing interviews there. And I mean, it's really, Warrior Hike has really grown by leaps and bounds since when you started not that long ago. You know, there's really a need for it.
Exactly right. I mean, when I started this, I figured there wouldn't be but maybe 5 or 6 people crazy enough that would want to hike 2,000 plus miles over the course of 6 months as a way to transition from their service. But here I am today, screening almost 350 applications for next summer.
Well, we'll be right back with Sean Gobin. We've been talking about Warrior Hike, and he's one of the CNN heroes, and we'll get into talking about that experience at CNN and a little bit more about Warrior Hike when we return.
In 2012, after returning home from Iraq and Afghanistan, Sean Gobin hiked over 2,000 miles of the Appalachian Trail. Recognizing the therapeutic effects of long-distance hiking, Sean founded Warrior Expeditions, a veteran nonprofit therapy program that supports veterans transitioning from their military service by hiking America's national scenic trails. Equipment and supplies are provided, as well as assistance with job placement. For more info or to help support these veterans, visit warriorexpeditions.org.
Are you ready for the quantum age?
Humanity's next step in evolution?
Dream Vision 7 Radio Network invites you to the extraordinary platform of Evolutionary Voices for the Quantum Age.
Let's explore. Learn more about this upcoming age, where we bridge science with spirituality.
Where potentiality meets reality.
Where we take compassion into action.
Our trailblazers and visionaries will ask the whys, the what-ifs, while igniting continuous possibility.
Come along with us into an age beyond what we know today, where we can grow together in unity consciousness.
Experience Evolutionary Voices for the Quantum Age, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern on DreamVision7Radio.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074. 630-881-1074.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Are you having an average day? Do you seem to be having more average days than great days? I'm Marina J, and I help women turn that around. If you want fast, deep transformation on the stuff that hurts you the most, visit me at marinaj.net to receive support and inspiration now, because your happiness is everything.
Life's winding path reveals many truths. Join us every fourth Sunday at 7 p.m. for Healing Journeys with Michael Kovarik, where we explore how in the midst of uncertainty, we can find inner peace and guidance, the healing energy we receive from those who cross our paths, the mystical realms of alternative therapies, and the power to heal that lies within each of us. Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 123 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Welcome back. We've been talking with sean-gobin, founder of Warrior Hike, and recently awarded one of the top 10 CNN heroes. We've been talking about his experience in transitioning from combat situations and what really inspired him to create Warrior Hike and how it's helping other combat veterans all across the U.S. really work through what it is work through their transition from a military life to civilian life. So, Sean, I know we've been kind of talking here and there. You've got trails that you're doing in different states. Can you expand upon that?
Sure. So in 2014, we had replicated our program from the Appalachian Trail to the other two long-distance trails that hike across the United States from south to north. So by spring of 2015, I essentially had become a victim of my own success and had become inundated with requests from veterans to do these hikes. But the problem is with these trails, we could really only support smaller groups because as the communities hosted our veterans along the way, it's one thing to ask them to host, 6 veterans, but when you start getting up to a dozen, 20, 30, 40, it's just not feasible. The model doesn't work.
That's a pretty big number, yeah.
Yeah, and additionally, not everybody is really, wired to hike 2,000 miles for 6 months. And so I started I started to stumble across these other trails that were very popular that other hikers have been doing, and I classified them as state trails. So still a long-distance hike, but they span across a single state. So, for example, the Florida Trail has a trail that spans 1,200 miles across the state. The Arizona Trail has a trail that spans 800 miles across the state and through the Grand Canyon. And the Ice Age Trail has, Wisconsin has the Ice Age Trail, which spans 1,200 miles across its state. Mm-hmm. So I had the idea of if I could replicate this program on these state trails, there'd be a number of advantages. First, it would allow me to support more veterans and spread them out so I didn't have an entire army of people hiking up one trail. And they're a little bit shorter and easier, so for people that are beginner hikers, it gives them a trail that's a little bit easier to negotiate, to navigate, to do their resupply with. And then what even more important was if I could take veterans from that state and have them hike their state's trail and meet communities along the way from the state in which they reside, you've now taken a veteran and connected them with an entire network of people from their own state, which can be very helpful, especially as you're transitioning to the next phase of your life with regards to where to live next, job opportunities. So this was kind of a missing element. If I had somebody from Arizona hike the Appalachian Trail on the East Coast and then return to Arizona, they met all these wonderful people on the East Coast, but there's potentially a missed opportunity there. And so by now having these shorter state trails, I can now have veterans from those states hike their own state trails.
That's amazing. I can easily see why CNN picked you as one of the top 10 CNN heroes. And I really believe in my heart that the work that you're doing here in giving combat veterans the opportunity to go ahead and do these kind of walks is really helping, and we've talked about this before, not just that individual, but it's helping their family, their friends, that community. It's a bigger ripple that's being made by what it is that you're doing here. So
yeah, it's really multifaceted. I mean, I get letters from the families of the veterans that have hiked in our program describing how, their husband, father, brother, son has, truly returned home after doing one of these hikes. Wow. Additionally, I get letters from people from the communities that they meet along the way who send me notes and proclaim how powerful and therapeutic it was for them to help a veteran that was on one of these hikes. And so, yeah, it touches a lot of different folks in a lot of different ways, and has been really helpful for a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons.
Well, and I think it's a way of giving back as well. And for people, for our listeners out there, if you want to be, to volunteer for Warrior Hike, see how you can make a difference, how you can make an impact, I would suggest that you get in touch with Sean at warriorhike.org. And and see about getting involved in helping the community at large. So you're getting these letters, and
yeah, and so it actually proposed a new problem and a new solution, because since the word had gotten out, now I was starting to receive a lot of applications from veterans that had some pretty serious injuries. As we know from watching the news, the big threat in Iraq and Afghanistan was the improvised explosive devices, which had caused a lot of lower extremity injuries with our service members. So a lot of our folks are coming home as amputees, and as you can imagine, somebody with a prosthetic, might not necessarily be able to hike 2,000 plus miles. And so I started looking at the map and figured maybe there's an outdoor experience that we could create for veterans that have more serious injuries who can't hike. And immediately the Mississippi River jumped out at me, and I said, hey, maybe we can set up a paddling program replicated much like our hiking program. And that became the impetus for Warrior Paddle, which is a 2,300-mile paddling trip down the entire length of the Mississippi River. It starts in northern Minnesota and goes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico and Louisiana. And so this summer, we launched Warrior Paddle with 4 veterans that were experienced paddlers as kind of a prototype trip to make sure it was that my theory would be sound. And sure enough, it turned out to be an incredible journey, an incredible outdoor journey. And much like our hiking programs where they meet with communities along the way, there are no shortage of wonderful communities along the Mississippi River that were more than willing to host our veterans as well. And so now in 2016, I intend to offer that opportunity for our more seriously injured service members as a way to have them transition as well.
Yeah, that's fabulous. That's absolute. And so do you have a person that goes with each of these groups and kind of supervises or meets with them along the trail?
Yeah, so that gets into, you had mentioned if people want to reach out and help. We are always looking for highly qualified and dedicated volunteers that could help us run the program. One of the interesting things about Warrior Hike as a nonprofit is we are an all-volunteer organization, to include myself as the founder and executive director. And so we're always looking for volunteers to help out. And how we've structured the organization is we try to find a volunteer to help out with each particular trail. And so, for example, the Appalachian Trail has a volunteer whose sole purpose it is to basically coordinate the support between the veterans on the trail and the communities along the way. And so they're in a constant communication cycle of relaying that information and setting up support for them and answering their questions and helping them solve any issues that they're having along the way. So now that we're going to have 8 trails and a paddling trip and the next year a bicycle trip, we're looking for volunteers to be those coordinators for each one of those trails.
That's fabulous. And I understand that Warrior Hike is one of the very few nonprofits that actually has operation costs less than 1%. So the majority of the donations actually truly does go to the veterans and helping them with this, with their paddle or their hike, so that they can transition.
Yeah, we just did our we just updated our financials a couple weeks ago, and currently our overhead cost is 1.2%. So. Oh,
I was a little off. That's still pretty amazing compared to just for overhead costs. And then like when I make donations to Warrior Hike, I know that a majority of my donation goes right to the heroes there. Well,
yeah,
we're gonna.
We were.
Mm-hmm. We'll be right back, Sean. I'm sorry. We're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been talking to Sean Gobin of Warrior Hike, and we'll be right back, so stay tuned.
In a single moment, your life can change. Join Marianne Pastana, host of Moments with Marianne, for a transformative hour of leaders in their field, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Tune in to experience Moments with Marianne every second Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network. Don't miss this. And remember, make every moment count.
Join the Mind Health Coach with Leah Marie every 4th Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Come explore with us natural and healthy ways to achieve inner peace, happiness, and an ever-present state of well-being. You're already healed. You just haven't realized it yet. When you're ready, you can change your mind and change your life forever. The power of a beautiful life is within you today. Mind Health Coach with Leah Marie is part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show every first and third Sunday, 9 to 10 p.m. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be love. Every first and third Sunday from 9 to 10 p.m. All part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074. 630-881-1074.
The pressure is on. Can you feel it? Life as we've known it is no longer working. Why? We are awakening. The true core self is alive within us now and has a new life to live. What does this mean? How do we live from here? Join us live every third Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern as spiritual embodiment coach and trainer Ambu Jam Rose explains this mass awakening. Ambu Jam's direct approach teaches you how to navigate this new wild ride, educates you on how to strengthen your spiritual core, and takes your calls for personal spiritual core training. This program is part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1, 2, 3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Ask Dr. Love is now on the Dream Vision 7 radio network every second and fourth Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Jamie Turndorf, a.k.a. Ask Dr. Love, is a psychotherapist, author, love and relationship expert who offers advice and answers to your relationship questions. Hear about Dr. Love's groundbreaking new Dialoguing with the Departed technique that enables you to reconnect and make peace with a loved one. This show is for you, the listener, and Dr. Love wants to hear from you. Call 866-338-9663 or 617-237-1234.
Welcome back. We've been talking to founder of Warrior Hike, Sean-Gobin, and discussing how combat veterans are transitioning through his program to civilian life. So Sean, I know we were talking about these different trails that you have, and we had to pause there for a quick break. Why don't you go ahead and tell us the other trails that you have coming up?
Yeah, so the idea of setting up these state trails, like we mentioned, this past summer, we were able to set up those trails in Florida, Arizona, and Wisconsin. And now next year, for the 2016 hiking season, we are also going to replicate the Warrior Hike program on the Mountains to Sea Trail that crosses the state of North Carolina. It's about 1,200 miles long. It starts in the Smoky Mountains and then crosses the state and ends on the coast at the Outer Banks. And then we're also going to add the Buckeye Trail in Ohio, and that is a 1,400-mile long trail that circles the entire state. So
that's a big trail.
Yeah, and so my intent is, so every year we'll try to add a couple more state trails with the ultimate goal of having a hike and a trail in every state.
Oh, that's fabulous. That'll be fabulous. So you have that going, and I know Warrior Hike has an announcement this coming year.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time?
Oh, sure. I know that Warrior Hike has really grown, but it also has an announcement this coming year.
Oh, correct. Yeah. So again, we started with hiking, and then because of the demand of veterans that had more serious injuries that couldn't hike, we started a paddling program down the Mississippi River. And so now we've found out that there's a lot of injured veterans that are very big into bicycling, and there's a big adaptive bicycling community out there within the Wounded Warrior community. And so this spring, we are now also going to add Warrior Bike, which is going to be a cross-country bicycle trip along the Trans-American Trail, and that is approximately 4,200 miles long, and it spans from Oregon to Virginia. And so I've actually got a husband and wife team, both retired Marines that are bicyclist enthusiasts, and they're going to scout that trek out for us in 2016 to then open it up for injured veterans for adaptive bicycling in 2017. And so now, because of this, now that we've got Warrior Hike, Warrior Bike, and Warrior Paddle, we've incorporated under the name Warrior Expeditions, with Warrior Hike, Warrior Bike, and Warrior Paddle being our three different programs that we run.
Wow. That's absolutely phenomenal. And there's different ways that, I'm just going to keep bringing this up, there's different ways that people can get involved in supporting our combat veterans I know that you have several different things going on where they can be volunteers. This is the holiday season here is just right around the corner. If they want to do a donation, you were one of the top 10 CNN heroes, and I know right now they have a matching donation with Subaru. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, as one of many wonderful things, as being selected as a top 10 CNN hero, one of the things they're doing is they've partnered with Subaru, who is matching donations from now until December 31st. And so if you go to the CNN Heroes website, you can click on Warrior Hike and make a donation, and Subaru is going to match those donations up to $500,000.
Perfect. Well, and I have the website here, so it's at cnnwebsite.com/donations. They can see all the wonderful CNN heroes there. To support our combat veterans, you want to go ahead and click on sean-gobin and go ahead and donate. There's that way of donating. You can also do by volunteering and getting involved in your local state and seeing if you can help with one of the trails. And just get in touch with Sean at the website, his website, warriorhike.org, and see what they need help with. Because I'm sure there's quite a bit you guys need help with right now.
Yeah, and there's actually a number of ways to donate. So, in addition to the CNN website where the donations will get matched, you can donate from our website, as you mentioned, warriorhike.org. Mm-hmm. And then we've also started a new program where if somebody wants to do a fundraiser hike, we can build them a personal page with a link to their own personal blog. And if they want to go out and do a fundraiser hike in honor of Warrior Hike, we can facilitate that and collect donations and send reports and provide content to their family and friends. So that's another way to donate. And then as far as volunteering, there's a number of ways to volunteer. If you're very skilled and you have lots of time, we're looking for help on our staff. Or if you happen to go to our website, you can see all of the different trails. We have maps on the website to show where the trails pass through. And if you happen to be located along one of those trails and you want to host our veterans as they pass through your community, you can do that as well. And feel free to reach out to us, and we can help coordinate that and then link you up with our veterans as they pass through your area. And then, as always, you can follow their journeys on our social media sites. What we do is, as our veterans make these journeys, they're always sending us back pictures and stories, and we post those on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. And so you feel free to check those out, and you can see the transformation happen right before your eyes as you follow these veterans as they make their way, across the country on these different trails.
Well, I've been following the journey for quite some time, and I am just, I want to do everything I can to help Warrior Hike. I think what you're doing is making a huge impact. So let's say I'm a combat veteran and would like to see about submitting my application to be considered for one of these, expeditions. What would be the best way for me to do that?
Sure. So you can go to the website, which again is warriorhike.org, and we have an apply page, and you can just submit your information right there on the website, and that automatically submits your application to us, and then you'll get a notice to send along some supporting documentation. And then what we do is December is our selection month, so all the applications that we've taken for the previous year, in December we screen those applications and try to determine, which veterans would benefit the most from our type of program, and then figure out which trail that they're best suited for. And then by early January, we make the announcements of who our veterans will be hiking, the different trails that we'll be supporting for the upcoming year.
I can't wait to see who is selected and follow the journey, the continuation of the journey. I think it's not just a journey for the veterans. I think it's a journey for all of us as we connect and just watch watch the transformation. I mean, I've come across a lot of people that have definitely used this program, over the course of my journey, through life. So I'm just want to say really grateful for everything that you've done here and getting Warrior Hike, just the concept going and taking it to what it is today. I mean, it's an amazing organization.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that, one message that we can get out is, we're obviously only able to help a very, small segment, of veterans that are struggling with different issues. But you don't necessarily have to, be enrolled in our program and go on one of these 6-month hikes to find peace and healing. I mean, the outdoors are everywhere, and they're accessible to everybody. And so to just, get a backpack and go outside and hit a trail, even if it's just for a few hours, it's pretty powerful experience, and it's much more effective than internalizing and, isolating yourself, or even worse, turning to things like drugs and alcohol. And so, it is a great, long-term coping therapy program, just to, get outside, be active, get some fresh air, connect with other people that are, interested in the same things you are, and just, find a way to reconnect and, find a reason for getting up in the morning. And that's really that's the key to life, or the key to healing, the big takeaway that we try to instill in our veterans.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and there is community there for you. I mean, it's not something that has to be done alone. There's community that's available. If you're unable to do one of the hikes, again, you can get in touch with Warrior Hike and see about how you can get involved in different ways. I mean, there's lots of ways to get involved. And, again, I can't say enough good things about your organization. My goodness, it's pretty amazing. So before we I know we're probably going to have to go here pretty soon, and I could talk to you for hours about all this. Why don't you share a little bit with us about the CNN banquet that you had? I'm sure that was just amazing.
Yeah, that was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. CNN really pulled out all the stops and rolled out the red carpet, literally and figuratively, for the top 10 CNN heroes. They had us down to New York City, all expenses paid trip to the city, put us up in a ritzy 5-star hotel, and then we had our banquet dinner at the Museum of Natural History, and it was a star-studded event with a lot of celebrities. My person sitting next to me at dinner table was Neil Patrick Harris, and Kathy Griffith was the one who introduced me to present my award, and obviously Anderson Cooper was the host. So every CNN hero had their own celebrity that introduced them, and it was just an amazing 5-star, top-of-the-line event, once-in-a-lifetime event. I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Well, Sean, I want to thank you for your service and for everything that you're doing. You truly are an American hero, and I'm so honored to know you, and I really appreciate you taking the time. And to all of our listeners, I want to thank you for tuning in today. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Marianne's guests are leaders in their field, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in their own work. They teach others to develop, refocus, and grow. Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. And remember, make every moment count.